right. Well, welcome everyone to our second edition of Viking Voices. I'm Dr. Dan Applegate, Superintendent of Niles Community Schools. I have a special guest with me here that I'll introduce in a second. But first I want to say, there's a lot of opinions about starting school and whether school should start. And if it does start, what mitigating factors are you putting in place, and all these different opinions. And again, what we're trying to do is do what's best for the safety of our students and our staff as best we can. We've got guidance from the State Department that we continue to follow. We also have guidance from Berrien County Health Department that we will continue to follow in our plans to reopen school. This forum, Viking Voices, is a forum that's allowing me to talk with different district leaders to say, what are we doing? How are we preparing for the fall so that parents and staff can make an educated decision on some pretty personal decisions that they're going to need to make relative to what are we going to do when school starts. For parents, am I going to send my child to school? Am I looking at a virtual option? Well, first, before they make that decision, they need to know, what are we doing as a school system to help protect their children and the staff and everyone involved in educating our students. So like I said, one of the things we're doing is we're following the state's guidance. We're following the guidance of Berrien County Health Department. And here today is our number one person helping me do that with a lot of safety and health protocols. The guidance came down. I said, Tracy, he's the director of student support services. He's a former superintendent here in the state of Michigan, and he's the number one man in putting together a lot of our critical pieces to help kids help kids be safe and our staff safe when we return in the fall. So Tracy, do you mind introducing yourself and telling us, just to give a little background about yourself?
No, I'd be glad to, and I'm glad to be on the air today with you, Dr. Applegate. Again, as he said, my name is Tracy Hertsel, and I am Director of Student Support Services. That hat has kind of had a few things underneath of it, and they're ever changing, which we're good with. But one of my predominant things that I'm focused on right now is the COVID and everything we can do to get our schools open safely for staff and for students this coming fall. As he said, we have had countless meetings with administration, with the health department, and Dr. Applegate and myself are actually even part of a study group for the state, for the governor and the suburban task force, looking at what it's going to take to reopen schools safely. So we were glad to do that work, and it also gave us a lot of insight on things that we're looking at right now to put in place so we can open safely. Along with that, I do deal with some of the higher level discipline issues that come up in school buildings that go before the board. Also work with non-certified staff in a couple different areas with custodial and secretaries, that type of thing. And basically here to help Dr. Applegate. I do have, this is my 33rd year. I am getting kind of old, so I guess I'd say I'm a little seasoned. So I'm here just to support Dr. Applegate, and I do appreciate his dedication to staff and students.
And like I said, Tracy, you're in charge of a lot of the efforts here, and appreciate that. Not necessarily the instructional pieces, but a lot of the other pieces that are involved. And you, as a volunteer emergency personnel, also it's critical to have your insight and input in here. And you're also on the board for Southwest the Cassopolis Clinic, right?
I am on the Cassopolis Family Clinic board as president. And I also serve on the board for Southwestern Michigan College. So right. I'm kind of busy in my off time.
Yeah. So what I like about it, Tracy, is you're bringing a lot of different areas of expertise together that helps us make our decisions as well. So I really appreciate that. And like I said, you're in charge of so many of our efforts. Well, I have the roadmap here in front of me, and some of the things, even before we started talking about reopening schools here in the fall, schools were closed March 13th, and we had to quickly adjust and make some changes and provide remote instruction to parents and students at home. What's remote instruction is where our teachers are instructing, our own teachers are instructing the students while they're in the home, not a virtual program, but our remote program. And then schools closed. But then we also had to have an opening plan of our schools, not necessarily for school for students, but just for custodials, staff, for professional development, for you and I. What were our procedures and policies just to reopen the schools so people, adults, can come in and work? And you were part of that planning this summer. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we spent time looking at that and researching what our neighbors were doing, what we're doing at the ISD, trying to figure out what would fit best for Niles. And we put together our symptoms chart and basically our check-in procedures for each staff member each day. And we submitted that to the ISD and put it on our website. So basically we could open the doors and come back safely. And on a daily basis, we are each checking and monitor our own our own personal health to make sure that we are okay and not endangering others as we come in. So each day when we check into the building, we have a green check mark that it has to be developed by answering a series of questions and looking through that. So that got us back to where we could at least have some small group meetings, that type of thing. And again, keep our custodians working, because I will tell you, they have been working hard trying to give us the best deep cleaning they can through the summer months here.
Yeah, Tracy, speaking of cleaning, I know that was a big part of it as well. I mean, monitoring our own symptoms and people saying that, if you have any of these symptoms that were, addressed by Barron County Health Department that might identify that you might have COVID-19, to check those symptoms. And we're all doing that. But also cleaning is a big part of keeping the learning environment and the school environment safe, and the environment that we work in safe. Can you talk a little bit about the cleaning protocols that have gone into place and that may be going into place here in the fall?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, I want to say hats off to our custodial staff and operations department. They have been working hard. They've had updated training and basically working. We are, as I speak, looking at a couple different chemicals that are new to our district that actually are a little bit more effective than what we've been using. And so the research continues. It's changing on a daily basis. But when that happens, our custodians are trained with those new types of chemicals or new happenings. And I will tell you, all of our custodians have stepped up to do the extra daily cleaning of hitting door handles and just surfaces that are touched off, and they are coming right behind people actually cleaning them. We'll have meetings in our boardroom. Next thing I know, we have a custodian cleaning up tables and making sure we're ready for the next group. So definitely a lot more focus on just those heavy touch points, I would say.
And I know this morning you and I had a meeting with transportation talking about cleaning as well.
Absolutely. And as we get into transportation, that's a whole different arena, but they too are reviewing their cleaning procedures, trying to do what is absolutely best for their staff and for the students getting on their buses. But with transportation, there's going to be some increased changes in how they operate on a daily basis. They're looking at it was required by the governor's plan that they have to have hand sanitizer available entering the bus. All students, all staff have to wear masks on the bus, so they're looking at that. They're also looking at seating charts on the bus, not to be mean or anything like that, but that's part of the cohorting, I will call it, where they're trying to group kids together, mainly in families, but as they load the bus, they will load from the back to the front. And as we dismiss off of a bus, there will actually be 6-foot distancing taking place and doing that into the building. So a lot of changes in their procedures. And I don't think there's a department we have that's going to go without something changing or doing it a better way to be more efficient.
Yeah, things will definitely have to change. It's going to look different, that's for sure, in the fall. And again, we're just trying to prepare for all types of scenarios. And you mentioned loading from the back to the front, try to keep that cohorting and assigned seats. Those aren't ideal situations, but those are things that we need to do to provide safety, a safe transportation for our kids to get to school. You talked about the hand sanitizer as well, that will be provided on the bus, those type of things. So we're getting the kids to the school, but then you also mentioned training of the custodial staff. We also have some safety training that we need to do with our own staff and students and probably some parents a little bit if we talk about some of the symptoms of COVID-19. Can you talk a little bit about other additional training that's going outside of just training for cleaning?
Absolutely. And we will be training all staff members and we're even going to be training the students this year because the CDC keeps refining what their guidelines and what their best practices are. And we keep changing with that and adapting and making sure ours fit where their best science is at this point. And it's ever changing. But with doing that, our staff has normally in the past, and when I say staff, I mean everyone, right from the teachers right on down through the administrators, down to parapros, to IAs, to people that are working with kids. Every one of them have training they do in the fall coming back to school. And a lot of it in the past has been more safety, on the safety side of kids and first aid and that type of thing. Yeah. But we're going to be changing this year more to it, not changing, but adding to, because they still are going to be required to do what we've done in the past. But we also will have some increased training with the COVID, with signs and symptoms and hand washing, hygiene, all those types of things. And those are things they're going to incorporate in their classroom to help students learn how to best take care of themselves, not only in school, but out in public too.
Yeah, I know a lot of our coaches, MHSAA had a video of symptoms and signs of COVID-19 and how to mitigate those while they're coaching or during practices. And I actually watched that video. It wasn't very long, but it was very informative. I mean, even though you think you know all the stuff, and I've been reading about COVID from the Berrien County Health Department, the State Department all the time, it really put some things in perspective. But they were talking about, just how do you teach a kid at different ages to, cough into their sleeve or do those types of things. So you're right. I mean, it's very important, those training videos, if nothing else. Maybe you know everything, but at least it gives you a reminder and a visual to help others. So I think that's a very important piece. And I know you oversee a lot of our other safety training as well at the beginning of the year that you mentioned. So, all right. So Tracy, the next question is supplies. We talk about hand washing, we talk about sanitizing. We're going to have to be clean. We're going to be cleaning the classrooms more often, cleaning the buses more often. So what about supplies? What kind of, I'm worried a little bit about our supply chain, but what do you know about our, ordering supplies, getting supplies, you've been doing a lot of that. Tell us a little bit more about what you've been doing there.
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time researching and looking at that, and Dr. Applegate's exactly right. With some of the new supplies coming out, of course, when we talk about chemicals, we're looking for a kill time. So trying to get that number down as much as we can. There's some supplies we had like a 10-minute kill time. We're getting down underneath 5 to maybe even 3-minute kill time.
Tracy, what do you mean? What do you mean by kill time?
And that is killing the germs. Basically, to spray a formula on and let it set, and it will kill the germ. And again, we have a couple new machines that we already have in place. They're called Clorox 360 machines, which give us a real firm handle on being able to go in a classroom and actually spray down a classroom. And within 3 minutes, it's safe to go back into that room, and it will actually take care of the germs. But the next problem involved with all this is just securing the products. As Dr. Applegate said, we are having supply problems on all fronts. And as we're trying to find PPEs or professional protective stuff for our staff and students, everybody else in the United States is trying to secure the same product. So face mask, soap, hand sanitizer, all those things that in the past were kind of something that you kind of thought about, maybe you had a little bit here or there, they are hard to come by right now. The Clorox wipes that many people use, and they are just hard to come by. And if you can find them, they're about 3 times the cost of what they were about 4 months ago. So been spending a lot of time with that.
And that's what I've been hearing from other superintendents across the county. I meet with them every day. They've been talking about the same thing. Some of us, I know we ordered things 3 months ago, and some things still haven't been in, and other things that come in the next day. So it's really been kind of hit and miss with some of those products. Like I said, you may have ordered thermometers, and they came the next day, and someone else said, hey, I ordered them 2 months ago and they haven't been in yet. So they switched their vendor, and our vendor says, oh, we don't have them anymore. So I know supplies, the supply chain is a big issue, but I also know you've been very proactive. You've got a budget. We received around $700,000 in CARES Act money, which we're using to buy Chromebooks for students. So we go to one-on-one, but also all the cleaning supplies. I know the estimates is that's going to cost about $1.8 million for us to employ and implement all these mitigating factors that we're doing. But I know you're doing the best you can to try to save money when you do that. But sometimes it's like, we've got to order it. We got to have it ready for when school starts. So I know that's a thing a struggle you have right now.
Yeah, it really is. And we're trying to make sure we at least got the first 9 weeks covered, and we'll kind of go from there. But we're working real hard to secure all those products for every building entry point that's going to need hand sanitizer, have rubber gloves available, have masks available for people that don't have them. So we're working really hard at it, and we will continue doing it, and we'll be ready by the time the doors open.
And the last thing that I want to kind of touch base with you is about spacing and movement. You and I last Friday went into a couple classrooms and we're spacing desks out, and we picked some of the smaller classrooms and some of the larger classrooms that might have tables. Because what we did during the bond is we wanted our kids to be collaborative. We wanted them talking. We wanted them working together, working in projects, working in groups, discussion. And so in a lot of our rooms, we have tables. Well, you're not supposed to set students across from one another, and so trying to reconfigure the rooms. I know we did that. I know it's a tough thing, but we were able to, and even some of the smaller rooms were able to get our students, spaced apart 3 to 6 feet. But that's why they're wearing masks. But what about other spacing or movement issues that we have in the district?
Well, and it's certainly when you look in the secondary part of it, we're going to look basically at trying to keep the movement down to a minimum, but understand in a secondary level, those students got to get to different classes. They don't just fall in a line with grade levels comparable to a subject matter. They're across grade levels. So therefore, we're working really hard to get traffic flow in the hallways down to a minimum. Also, restroom and those type of breaks, those are more a situation where we have gang type bathroom, and we got to be real careful the way we handle that. And we're certainly going to increase the cleaning of those bathrooms, but just trying to work that all through, and then use spaces that kind of in the past have not been used for the purpose they are that we're looking at. Putting basically cafeteria tables maybe in some areas where they haven't been before, just so we can gain that social distance. And our food service, I got to give a shout out to them also, because they have been so adaptive through this whole process. And from the start, I mean, it was almost overnight they were asked to start serving meals, and they have actually served hundreds of thousands of meals to date.
Yep.
And they've just been impressive. And again, our meeting last week with our food service director, as he said, we'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. And we greatly appreciate that and working with that. And again, our transportation department, same way. They said, we're going to figure it out. We're going to do what's best for kids, and we'll get it done. So we do appreciate that. But as we look at the classroom, as Dr. Applegate said, the classrooms were designed many years ago, even before Dr. Applegate and I was around. And some of them aren't the optimal on space. Some spaces are bigger. Some don't have tables affixed to the wall. Some do. So we have to work through all those situations. And we certainly tried to look at classroom and give the best scenario last week. And I think we came up with some pretty good solutions. And when the governor was putting his plan together with her council, they knew that school buildings were going to be an issue, because many of school buildings are older and space is a definite issue. So, the masks are number one important at that level, because they know students might not be 6 foot in all cases. We're going to do the best we can. Teachers are going to do the best they can, but it just might not happen. But that's where the face masks come in and are so important for those students to wear them. And they are required to wear them 6'12" all day long. And that's going to be a change of environment for all of us, and a tough thing for them. So
well, you bring up masks, and I think that is one of the most difficult things that we've kind of gone back and forth. And I was on a meeting today with superintendents across the state, going back and forth over masks. And one of the questions comes up is, can you use a face shield rather than a mask? And I know we kind of were hoping that we were going to be able to do that in some of our classrooms where students need to maybe see the teacher's face, or might be more friendly than a mask. But can you tell me what you found about face shields?
Well, in working through that, just as he said, we're trying to find options and see what works best. And I will tell you, I've ordered some masks here of late that actually have a clear shield on them. And I started receiving them as of Friday and a couple today. And they're really tough scenarios. And we were hoping it would give us a little better resolution. And I don't feel like what I've received to date are a good solution. So we're going to keep working on it. But face shields definitely offer a layer of security, but as we've talked about with all the professionals, the face mask is definitely a much more critical way to go, because it keeps basically the germs from spreading, where a face shield will allow for them to come under. But there are some people that will have a medical condition. It's just not possible to wear a mask. So a face shield does give a level of protection. It's just not to the level that a mask will. So certainly we're going to take that on a case-by-case basis, because we know there are people with medical conditions, and that's going to be a situation that we have to look at, and we will do what's absolutely best for that individual to make it work.
Yeah, you'd share some research from University of Notre Dame when they were talking about opening, and they mentioned that face shields do not provide the same protection as face masks, and so they are not allowing them in lieu of a face mask. They have to wear the face mask. I know we had mentioned that. We also, one thing that keeps coming up when it talks about hygiene, the safety of the environment, not necessarily hygiene, but the air quality. And I know our new HVAC systems, again, they're not it wasn't exciting to put millions of dollars in an HVAC system, but it does allow us to refresh air more often. Do you mind talking a little bit about that? I talked to Lewis Evans, our director of operations, the other day, so he filled me in a little bit, but you might know more about that.
Yeah, and I will tell you one thing, when the bond went through, and that was before my time when it actually started out here, but they actually decided to go with the Cadillac of the units. They went with the very best out on the market, and you know, at the time that was hard to swallow, just because, again, as Dr. Applegate said, it didn't really expose the classroom or make it look prettier or do anything like that. But what it did do is it provided a level of protection for our staff and students where it's exchanging the air, fresh air, at least 6 to 8 times an hour. They have new filtering systems on them that they are on a schedule to change. And with that happening, all of our classrooms are conditioned at this point and basically have outside air being introduced all the time, whether it's in the middle of winter or the middle of summer. We're getting fresh air in those classrooms, and that is so important with what we're learning from the COVID that, yeah, in the end, we are many steps above a lot of districts because of that renovation. So at this time, we're very thankful for those areas.
Yeah, I'm hearing that from other superintendents. Like I said, that was another topic of conversation today. Some school districts do not have refreshed air systems where they bring outside air in. They don't have air conditioning. And you think about the kids and the teachers wearing masks all day long like that, there's going to need to be some air conditioning. And I know those are additional costs we're willing to take on to lower the air, to take the humidity out of the air, because you're bringing fluid, constant humid air in from the outside. You got to condition that. And so I know it's additional cost, but we need to make the learning environment as friendly as possible, as comfortable as possible, because it's probably going to be pretty sterile as possible when you have to talk about spreading those desks out and really moving out. Like, in the elementary, when you go read, you and I have both been asked to go read. Donna Rourke's been asked to go read, and you sit in the rocking chair, and the kids are able to sit down around you. It's a great time. Kids have different spaces in their classrooms. I just don't know how. We're still working on the spacing of those pieces. So we really do want to make the environment as comfortable as we can throughout the whole process. I know we also have questions about kids kind of moving around, also. I don't see an issue that kids will be able to move around through the classroom as long as it's organized and teachers are able to kind of, they might have to do a little more planning in how movement occurs, especially at the younger ages. When you talk about our preschool kids, our kindergartner students, our Montessori programs, students are still going to be able to move around because that's part of the instructional program that's there, of choice and being able to. So the teachers we're just got to get a little more proactive in some of our planning to continue to allow for that movement. But students will also be up and around washing their hands. I know that was something we talked about. Can you tell a little bit more about hand washing in students and how that's going to impact the schools in the fall?
Absolutely. And part of that renovation through part of our schools in the elementary classrooms, and that would be the lower elementary classroom, they actually have sinks in the room, and it's going to be a key time that teachers can teach students how to wash their hands. And I think everybody's heard about the 20 seconds of good hard hand washing, working with kids to do that. So that will be a great opportunity. We're also looking at putting in some portable stations just to add in the upper elementary levels and the secondary to have more hand washing stations available. Through it all, CDC continues to say the best antidote is to hand wash. More so than all the other chemicals we can come up with, hand washing is number one and still the best way to go. So we are working closely with our reps on that and trying to get portable stations throughout the building where we might be a little deficient in that area. As Dr. Applegate said, we are trying to minimize the movement through the building in all levels, and that's kind of where our principals will be meeting tomorrow and discussing that. Certainly, what we're looking at, again, just to go back to the word or the term called cohorting, in our K-5 classrooms, we're looking at cohorting, which means keeping those kids together. And as long as they're in their same group with their homeroom teacher, that is going to be the best antidote we have, so we're not mixing groups together. The other part of that is the principals are working with their teachers on when breaks will happen, when exchanges will happen, and when recess will happen, and trying to minimize the interaction again on a playground. So again, all those are small parts, but they all play into the big plan, and we're trying to be definitely as proactive as we can. And in some situations, I know there's a question about plexiglass and those types of things. We are definitely trying to address high impact areas where you might have a teacher or a student closer than normal. The face mask isn't available because of trying to see the actual mouth movements and that type of thing for teachers. So we're developing plexiglass in various locations. We have a company working with us right now, working on those types of areas. You also might see some of those when you enter a school office, just because we are trying to give our staff protection too. So our secretaries that have a high foot traffic area, if the public comes in, we want to make sure that we're ready for that. So we're working towards that also.
But right now, the plan is not to have plexiglass actually in the classroom, but just more. We're going to have more. You have different, like you mentioned, cohorting. Different cohorts coming together, maybe to go through a food line or to come into a school building. You know, you can't really control that group of people. There's gonna be a lot more people, so we're putting a plexiglass there. But I don't think we have plans for plexiglass in the classroom. Is that right?
That is correct. No, the only place plexiglass might come into a classroom type situation, or more so in a specialist situation, might be if we have a speech pathologist or somebody that's working very individualized for a student. But no, not in the general classroom. We're not looking at that. It's more just in a high traffic area of people that we would have.
And Tracy, I mean, what we're trying to do, and I know what you're trying to do, and the efforts and our teachers are trying to do, is put all these mitigating factors so that no one comes down with COVID-19 because we started school or came to school. Now we can't, you know, when someone leaves and goes on vacation, or someone leaves and goes visits family, or, you know, they have another job, or children are in daycare. We can't control all of that, but even all the mitigating factors, what we're trying to do is control as much as we can in the schools. But even if we did that, we probably are still going to have some kind of case of COVID-19.
I would say you're absolutely correct with that. And, you know, as we work through this, we are preparing plans for that also. And and a lot of that, once there's a positive test that happens, the health department gets involved, and they really help us work through, you know, exactly what we need to do, whether it is shutting down a classroom or shutting down an area or that type of thing. We're certainly every day in contact with the health department. If we have anything that comes up like that, we work very closely with them.
And again, with you being on Cass Clinic, I mean, you're on the forefront of information that's coming down of how long, you know, quarantine time. Is it 10 days? Is it 14 days? Is it how many days after, you know, the symptoms are free? Those are all things I know Berrien County Health Department is going to provide for us. And once we get that information, we'll share that out with parents, because again, my goal here in doing the Viking Voice and any other informational items that I send out, or that you provide for me to send out, is so that parents can make an informed decision, because they do have a tough decision. The parents do. That is a tough decision. And, you know, we just want it to be informed. So we want to share as much information that we can about that. So more information on those type of cases. But again, Tracy, I just want to thank you for all of your efforts, you know, in helping us try to mitigate, whether it's in hygiene or safety, just all the work that you're doing. It's very much appreciated. I know people see you in the buildings all the time. They appreciate all that you help. They know your heart's in the right place. They know you're trying to help do as much as you can to keep our staff and our students safe. So thank you very much for that, Tracy. Appreciate that.
I appreciate the time being here today, and I do also appreciate your dedication to staff and students. Your communication is just awesome, and I know when a situation develops, you're first on the forefront. Let's get the information out so parents can make their best decision, no matter what the scenario might be.
Well, thank you very much, Tracy. And like I said, our plans is to have school reopen here in the fall. That's what we're going to drive towards, but we're also ready in case we have to turn remote or we have to provide a virtual option. We're planning for all possible contingencies here is what we're doing. And so if we were to go to virtual, again, like I said, we received some money. We were able to quickly switch back to remote if we needed to, because we purchased many more Chromebooks 1-to-1 for at least 6 through 12, I believe. And I know we're working on K through 5 still and doing that. I know sometimes that's not ideal to have students in front of, you know, a Chromebook as much as possible in the elementary levels. We're looking for an alternative, but I know 6 through 12 will be able to provide every single student a device if needed at home this fall, if we end up going virtual. So there's a lot more to come. We still don't have all the answers. We're waiting for some answers from Berrien County Health Department. We're still waiting for some guidance from the state. You know, right now we're planning on reopening, but please stay tuned. Stay tuned on our social media, our Facebook pages, on our website, nowschools.org. Also on our Facebook page. Stay tuned here. I will continue to communicate, because again, my goal is to give parents and staff keep them informed as much as possible of what's going on in schools, and things change daily. That's all I can tell you. expect change, because right now, whatever decisions that are made today, with things changing, the decisions may change. And I'll continue to get input. As a matter of fact, I'm getting ready to meet with some parents this afternoon about our plans and get their feedback and those type of things. So again, thank you, Tracy. I look forward to our next edition of Viking Voices, where I'll have our next district leader who's helping us plan and reopen schools. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay connected. Thank you very much.
Thank you.